Hi, my name's Liz, and I'd like to share a little bit about my life. I was born with a cleft lip, cleft palate, and by the time I was 10 years old, I had at least 5 to 6 surgeries, and by the time I was 15, I had 10. At the age of 4, I was already experiencing a lot of asthma attacks, and I was severely asthmatic. And at one time, I got very ill. I got 106 fever, and they took me to the hospital and called my father and told him to please hurry up and get to the hospital because I was on the verge of dying. And my father made a prayer. He says, please don't let my daughter die. If you don't let her die, I'll give her back to you. I believe because of that prayer that God answered it. See, they pronounced me dead in that hospital, and they put a blanket over my body, and my aunt saw something move underneath there, and she said, nope, she's not going to be dead. And so she took me and started giving me mouth to mouth, and they took me to another hospital where they revived me. And my father's prayers were answered. I was about between the ages of 4 and 7. I was violated, and it was really hard for me at that time. I didn't want to remember that incident or what happened to me, so I suppressed all of that experience. And then when I was about 7 years old, I had an incident where I got hit in the head and I blacked out. So when that happened, I remember they were carrying my body, and then from there I blacked out completely. And the next thing I find myself in a candy store. And in this candy store, I hear my father crying out, please help her, don't let her die. But I was out of my body. I had an out-of-body experience. I could see my body, I could see my father, I could see the people in that candy store. I could see everything that was happening there, but nobody could hear me. I would be crying out, please, Dad, don't let me die, don't let me die. And the next thing I knew, I was back into my body saying the same thing I had been saying before. These little incidents, all of them, one by one, added up to me realizing that God was intervening. There was something about the afterlife. By the time I was 15 years old, I had gone through a lot of asthma and incidents where I had almost died in the middle of the night, not being able to breathe. And at 15, I had an overdose of adrenaline given to me. The doctors told the nurse, give her 1/4 of a cc diluted. And then the doctor gave me 4 cc's diluted. That incident was very, very traumatic for me. I could hear my heartbeat in my whole body. And then from then on, I started having more severe things happening to me. I would stay paralyzed, muscle spasms from my waist down, muscle spasms from my waist up, but it would last for 5 to 7 days sometimes, where I couldn't move or couldn't walk or couldn't get out of bed. Doctors started to say that I had a deformed valve, that I would never live past 20 or 30 years without having some medical procedures. And I didn't understand what was happening. Doctors told my parents, you're going to have to get her out of New York because she has too many allergies, so take her to another area. So my parents moved to Puerto Rico. My parents were involved in spiritualism and Santeria, so God had other plans. He wanted to get me out of that environment so he could get my attention. And here I was in Puerto Rico. I had prayed out to God, cried out to God, Lord, please, I want to be able to make it to college. And I'm not strong in Spanish because I was raised in the Bronx. And here I was in Puerto Rico trying to fend for myself, trying to learn the language, how to read it and write it. But God helped me, and I had a 3.5 average, and I was able to get a full scholarship and enter the University of Puerto Rico. And in there, people started to talk to me about God more and more. And there was this one girl that kept asking me, if you want, I'll give you a ride home, but you don't have to take the bus. I pass by your house every day. I said, sure. So she had a group of about 4 other girls in the car with us, and they would share about Jesus and how he loved them and how he would answer their prayers. But not once did they condemn me. They loved me, and they just kept sharing about how beautiful and how awesome God was. There was a point where I started to think and say, well, I need more information. I want to know what's really true. Because I had promised God, if He allowed me to go to college, I would find Him. I wanted to know the truth. So at this time, we went, and then she said, listen, if you want to take a ride, meet me in front of this building. And they were having an outdoor service. And this girl started to talk, and everything she said had to do about my life. Everything she said had to do about my life. And I was saying, please let her stop talking. But God's presence came all over me, and I began to hear God's voice and tell me. And she says, if you need a personal relationship with Jesus, just come up and we'll pray for you. So I went up. That day, all the pain, the hurt, the things that had happened to me, and all the sicknesses, Lord, I prayed, and I felt this thing lifted off of me. I was able to have peace. I was able to have joy in my life where I never had that before. All I ever would want to do is cry in the bathroom and desire that just my life would end. Or I would cry out to God and tell him I wish I would never have been born. But God did a turnaround in my life. He healed my body. I never had one more asthma attack. I never had one more episode where I was paralyzed again. And I went to a doctor to check my heart, and guess what? They didn't find anything wrong with my heart anymore. So I'm here to tell you, God can be the only means of your peace, your love, your joy. He could heal you. He could change your life around, give you new direction, hope for your life. I'm telling you today, ask Him. Tell Him to come into your life. He'll turn it all around. He'll make you understand that He is the true God, and He'll give you peace. And that's what I'm telling you to do. Thank you for listening. Bye.